James Fenimore Cooper's The Last of the Mohicans is a work that deals with the first truly global conflict, the 7 Years' War. The battle for the balance of European power between Great Britain and France spilled over into the colonies, with both sides being supported by various Native American tribes. Cooper would write a series of 5 novels featuring Natty Bumppo, or Hawkeye as he's often known for his exceptional aim. Born to an English family but raised amongst Native Americans, he finds himself caught up in the war of the great powers of the era in The Last of the Mohicans. You are young and rich and have friends, and at such an age I know it is hard to die. The Last of the Mohicans has proved to be one of the most popular works of war literature to adapt for the big screen. It's been filmed over 10 times, most famously starring Randolph Scott in 1932, and with Daniel Day-Lewis playing Hawkeye in a 1992 version directed by Michael Mann.
Your aim's any better in your judgment.
Perhaps the greatest of all the war novels is Tolstoy's epic War and Peace. The strongest of all warriors are these two, time and patience. War and Peace deals with the Napoleonic era in Russian society and the ultimately failed invasion by Napoleon in 1812. Tolstoy wrote it soon after he returned to his birthplace, the Yasnaya Polyana estate, with his new bride, Sophia.
It's just over 25 years since the death of the famous author and philosopher Leo Tolstoy at the age of 82. Today, the house at Yasnaya Polyana near Tula, where he was born and spent most of his life, is preserved as a memorial to this great man of Russia. It was here that Tolstoy lived the simple life of a country peasant. It was here that towards the end of his life he renounced all his worldly goods, because it was part of his philosophy that no man should have any possessions. The rooms of the house are preserved exactly as Tolstoy left them. It was in his study in this house that he is shown at work in the famous picture. Here's the desk where he wrote most of his books. And here is his simple bedroom. The house is looked after by friends and relatives who devote all their time to keeping his memory alive. Tolstoy is buried in a grave which matches his life in its simplicity, the last resting place of one of Russia's greatest men.
War and Peace was originally serialized in The Russian Messenger in 1865, before being finally released in its complete form in 1869. King Vidor would direct an adaptation in 1956 with Audrey Hepburn, but the most well-received film version was made in the later Soviet era and released in 4 parts over 2 years, the truest example of an epic literary work being made into an equally epic film production.
Вот оно, страшные вести. Началось. Вот оно. Началось. Вот оно.
The great battles on horseback seem to bring out the best in writers. One of Alfred Lord Tennyson's most famous popular works is his narrative poem recollecting the charge of the Light Brigade. Unlike Tolstoy, who was covering a war that ended decades prior, Tennyson was inspired to write about the then ongoing Crimean War from an article in the Times newspaper. The charge itself was by the British light cavalry during the Battle of Balaclava, where British forces were trying to capture the city of Sevastopol. It was a strategic blunder that ended in terrible British casualties, but Tennyson was deeply moved by the sheer bravery of those involved in the face of such huge danger. It remains one of the very few literary works from the Crimean War era that has remained in the public consciousness until today.
Cavalry are advancing against our position. We'll cut them down before they cross the valley. No doubt. Instruct battery commanders of positions 37 and 22 to open fire immediately they come within range. Your Excellency.
While Tennyson was working off news reports in the Times, author Stephen Crane was following Tolstoy's lead and digging deep into the archives when writing his great work of war literature, The Red Badge of Courage. Crane was born in 1871, just 6 years after the end of the American Civil War. He'd never served in the military, but his novel made his readers so enveloped in the harshness of the American Civil War that many just assumed he'd been there. It was not well to drive men into final corners. At those moments, they could all develop teeth and claws. The Red Badge of Courage made Stephen Crane a sensation at the age of 24. He soon became a war correspondent for conflicts that were going on at the time, including the Greco-Turkish War of 1897 and the Spanish-American War of 1898. But he was sadly to die of ill health in 1900 at the age of just 29. The great director John Huston would adapt the novel in 1951 with real-life war hero Audie Murphy playing Private Henry Fleming.